This is episode 343 of SLP. This is our Cup Final recap show. We've got a guest Wigan fan to take us through their day, their experiences and their celebrations. Alan tries to provide some balance, and your fan views try to provide some more balance. We also have a bit of a dig in on some potential new structure changes in light of the push for both 1895 Cup Final teams to be given promotion. Then there's also some silly fan reviews, some bits of news, and some predictable predictions. So get strapped in, it's a long one. It's SLP time. Hello listeners, welcome along to episode 343 of the Super League pod, but it's not episode 343. What it is the 2022 Challenge Cup Final recap show. So I'm delighted to say that joining myself, Mark, is our Challenge Cup legend Alan, who's always there for the Cup. And Alan, we're joined by Wigan fan David Bailey as well for the Cup Final recap. Welcome to the show, David. It's a return for you, but it's been a while since you were on the show.
Yeah, it is a long overdue return, similar to Challenge Cup successes. But yeah, it's great to be here. Thanks for having me on, Mark. Appreciate it.
No, it's great to have you. Alan, before we get into what we're going to be talking about on the show, do you want to give a shout out to our sponsor, first of all?
Yes, so Super League Pod is supported by Rob's Megastore. Rob's Megastore stocks a wide variety of toys, stationery, arts and craft ideas, pet accessories, books, and of course, Rugby League birthday cards. Search for Rob's Megastore on eBay and find the link in our episode blog post on superleaguepod.com. SLP listeners can use the code SLP10, that's SLP10 at checkout to get 10% off any order over £5, or enter SLP discount and give your 10% towards funding SLP's running costs instead.
Great stuff. Yeah, so David, I had you in mind for coming on this show if we won, but I didn't want to ask you until we'd won. But I know me and you went to the Good Friday game together where we had to taste bitter defeat. So yeah. So it's great to get you on to talk about a glorious victory, isn't it?
Definitely. That Good Friday trip. I think you'll agree as well. I think a lot of the talk at the time as well was around if Wigan's best chance of winning in the Challenge Cup a matter of weeks later would be to lose that Good Friday game, just so that Saints didn't get that jolt into action of having the form upset and refocusing their energies. If they beat us on Good Friday, as many people expected them to, because they've been the standout team for the last 3 years, it gave Wigan that little bit of a sneak. And I think, when we spoke to St. David as well on the day, I think quite a lot of people concurred. So yeah, it is nice to be speaking to you on happier grounds.
Good stuff. Well, what we've got coming up on the show, we're going to get right into the Challenge Cup Final recap very quickly soon, and we're going to get a story of the day. We're going to speak to David about his experience of the day. We're going to then get into all your fan views for the big match as well, because we've got plenty of those. We'll cover off the 1895 Cup Final. We didn't get many fan views in on that, which is what it is. And then we'll chat about some discussion points that we've been saving up for a few weeks, where we've got a week with fewer games, because really we're only going to talk in depth about one game. So we're going to pick up about Sarah's referee blog that she wrote a couple of weeks ago, and some stuff about structure changes, which kind of informed by the IMG takeover and an expectation things are going to change from 2024. But David Hunter sent in an email idea for how he'd change things. Knowing David, it's going to be slightly convoluted, but that's how he does it. And that's led to a poll. So we've got more stuff coming up about that. Very quickly, people want to get in touch on anything we talk about in the show. I'm sure you're going to disagree with stuff because we've got 2 Wigan fans on the show this week. But if you want to get in touch about anything we talk about during the show, on social media, it's at Super League Pod on Twitter and Instagram. I did put pictures on Instagram. I don't really know how to do reels and stuff like that, but I did pictures at the weekend. Or it's facebook.com/Super League Pod. You can email superleaguepod@gmail.com or visit superleaguepod.com to get the info on each episode and the links to the Google Forms for your fan reviews that we can share and discuss on the show. And don't forget to subscribe in whatever podcast app you're listening to us on, and leave a rating and review if you can. Okay, that's a really short intro this week because we've got a lot to talk about as we move on to the Cup Final match reviews. Right, Alan. Huddersfield versus Wigan at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Didn't turn up at Wembley, did you?
Completely wrong end of town. No, I did not. Even though muscle memory might have dragged me on the Jubilee line rather than the overground. But yeah, no, I managed to turn up at the right place, which is a good start.
Well, 51,628 was the crowd figure that announced of people that turned up to the game. That saw Huddersfield 10-6 ahead at half-time, but Wigan turned that round to a 16-14 victory at full-time. James Child was, of course, the referee. We don't have full team stats, but courtesy of Rugby League Hub long reads and the RFL website, actually, in the end, they publish some individual stats as well. We do have some big individual stats we can talk about. What we do know as well from what Rugby League Hub long reads told us was that Wigan made more breaks, forced more goal line dropouts, also had a better team tackle success rate. However, and it will shock no one that watched the game, made more errors and conceded more penalties. So the stats kind of say Wigan did more, good and bad. What about the individual stats, Alan?
Yep, so for Wigan, Morgan Smithies with a try assist, 61 tackles and 102 metres. Liam Farrell, the Ghost, with 112 metres.
The God.
The Ghost. I forget who mentioned the Ghost as a nickname, but I think it's genius. John Bateman with 186 metres. Jay Field with a try, 7 tackle busts, 155 metres. Bevan French with a try assist, 185 metres, and Brad O'Neill with 43 tackles. For Huddersfield, Ricky Latelli with a try and 224 metres. Leroy Cudjoe with a try assist and 210 metres. Jerry McGilvery with a try and 172 metres. Josh Jones made 152 metres. Danny Levi had 40 tackles, and Chris Hill made 100 metres in 20 minutes.
Pretty impressive, isn't it, to be fair?
It is.
It's potentially a big factor that he wasn't able to come back on the rest of the game. Right, David, I don't know if you're anything like me, but that's the stats. That's the kind of stale stuff in a way, even though some of it's quite interesting. What we really are about is the fan emotion, and I think I woke up about every half an hour from about 3 a.m. onwards up until 6 o'clock when my alarm was meant to go off, with excitement for the big day. So take us through your start to the day on Saturday.
Yeah, as you say, it's an early start. We went down on the coaches, so a really early start. And I was picking my sister up, so we were only taking one car. The interesting thing for me as well, my daughter Daisy, who's 14 next month, so she'd been to the Challenge Cup final 5 years ago when we tasted defeats, but she was still she was still in single figures then. So this was a kind of new experience for her, where she's been really into it the last couple of seasons. In particular, she's been asking more questions about the game and really getting interested. So I think she was more excited than I was. She was like, "Right, I'm ready, Dad," and I'd not even, I'd not even brushed my teeth at that point. So yeah, it was, and it's always exciting. We went, the coach with Mayfair Travel on Wigan Lane, so there was. They took 15, I think, in total, but 12 of those were going from Wigan Lane. So again, there's that little buzz. It's getting lighter as well, with it being a May final rather than later in the year. So it was, the sunrise was up. So really, really exciting. And I don't want to say overconfidence, because I don't think that's something that's been a factor with Wigan this season. But I was, as far as a fan goes, if somebody said to any Wigan fan at the beginning of the season, you're playing Huddersfield to win the Challenge Cup, you'd snatch the hand off for that, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I was stood waiting for my Uncle Liam to pick us up about 15 minutes before he was supposed to be picking me up. I was just stood outside, and I was just too excited. I'd got ready way too early, got up way too soon. So I just stood outside waiting. We didn't get the coach, but that's an amazing number of coaches that Mayfair took, considering the club had 20 coaches, I think, as well. 20 coach loads as well. What actually on the you can talk to us about what it felt like on the coach as you kind of went down, but we got to the services. I can't remember which one, but we pulled in, and all the Tyrers coaches that the club had put on were all in the car park, and it was absolutely rammed. So we were like, no. Got back in the car, went to the next services, which was rugby, and I think we got there just before all your coaches got there.
Yeah, I mean, we stopped at, we ended up going down and getting on the M1, so we stopped at Watford Gap. But again, it's it's still, I think, whichever way you look at it, with the other stuff, I know Easeway took a load of coaches as well, so well represented on the coach front. The coach part was absolutely round, and it was quite a lot of Wigan fans. But yeah, getting to the services and just that little buzz, just seeing a sea of cherry and white, and there's quite a few Huddersfield fans as well there, and it's always sort of good natured on Challenge Cup final day, in my experience anyway. So it was just a nice atmosphere, and you see obviously all the people that are just travelling wherever that just have no clue what's going on in the world. Anybody outside of the M62 corridor doesn't like, where are all these people going? Like, it's not football, is it? But yeah, it was
one or two
really,
Mansfield or Port Vale fans kind of turn up and think there's a party on, and then realise it's someone else's party.
Exactly, yeah. Wow, I didn't realise we were bringing all these ready. But yeah, it was a great atmosphere on the way down. It was just that real anticipation, plus something new as well, a new stadium, which we'll no doubt speak about. But it was that unknown as well, adding to that anticipation, I think.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. We had to go to a different train station to get in. Like Alan said, remembering to get on the right train line and that sort of stuff. Parking somewhere different, going into somewhere different. But then getting into the stadium, I suppose I'll bring you in, Al, here a little bit, because you probably got there slightly before. I know we just missed the kickoff of the 1895. I know the coaches were similar sort of time into time I arrived at. So you'll have got there in time for that. So what did you make of the stadium turning up when it was, guess, a bit quieter?
Yeah, so I was in my seat for the kickoff of the first game. So yeah, a little bit earlier. I was saying to you that, so I was kind of walking from kind of Wood Green end of London, so kind of basically it's effectively just a straight road that takes you almost all the way to the stadium.
Yeah.
And I was kind of following the kind of walking directions, even though it was a straight road. I just wanted to make sure I was kind of going the right way and everything. It wasn't taking me to Wembley or up. And you kind of walk through a park, and you kind of came out the other side, and there's a walked past a school that was called Lancastrian, which I thought was really kind of funny.
Oh, an omen.
Yeah. If I'd known, I'd have put a bet on at that point. But anyway, and you kind of walked around that, and my phone's telling me like 3 minutes away from the stadium, and I couldn't see anything. It was just completely like obviously, you always look for the Wembley Arches, don't you?
Yeah.
And that miles away. It's a lot lower profile as a stadium. It's kind of, it feels much more, I don't know, hunkered into the environment, really. It doesn't really stand out. So you kind of came around the corner and kind of walked underneath the overground railway line itself. And then you were kind of hit by this kind of wall of noise of kind of fans that you just hadn't heard like 100 metres before. And yeah, obviously it was mainly kind of Fev and Lee fans who were kind of making the noise at this point as they're kind of going in. So yeah, I kind of arrived literally as they were starting to let people in, so I kind of timed that quite well. Getting in was absolutely fine, no drama. But yeah, just generally, the first impression when you kind of come around the corner and see the stadium is it's massively impressive.
Yeah.
It's just, yeah, it looks like the kind of future of stadiums. It's just, yeah.
It looked nice. It looked nice, didn't it? And then you get round to that south end where we were going in, and it's got that big wall of glass behind what is the wall of noise on the inside. And you went in, and it had a bar all the way across the bottom that had loads of seating space in there, loads of food options down there. And the closest experience I'd had in a stadium to that was an NFL stadium where, again, they had a big section underneath one of the stands that was kitted out for all your kind of needs as a fan, and it had lots of different parts to it. And it just made me feel like, like you say, this is the modern stadium. You thought, like, you were walking around the stadium, and I thought, this stadium has things that can operate every day, all year round, that still can make money for the stadium, like the brewery tap in there for Beavertown, and like some of the other bars that they've got and stuff. And that was awesome, I thought. And then you got through, and even with only we're not going to talk about the 1895 Cup final yet, but even with only a few thousand Lee and a few thousand and a couple of thousand Fev fans in there, it was noisy already, and you just thought, wow, what's this going to be like if we get going?
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
on that point, Mark, as well, with Alan saying about the stadium, just